Hi everyone, welcome back to Tropical Fruit Week here at Rockledge Gardens. This is Seth again. So yeah, this week we're going to be doing kind of a compilation of some notable mentions. The first one on the list is going to be bananas. They are fairly easy to grow for the most part. They thrive in wetter conditions, so if you have a low spot in your yard, throw a banana down and they will do great. There's tons of different varieties out there. Some of them are way different than others. There's this really cool one called a praying hands banana that we found. Yeah, this is definitely a really cool one. I haven't tried this one before, but I definitely want to. The ones you typically get at the grocery store are the Chiquita bananas. They're very creamy, very sweet, and just all around a good banana. But that is definitely not the best one by any means. There are so many unique varieties out there. So one of my favorite varieties out there is called an ice cream banana, also known as a blue Java banana. It's got a really good texture to it, like the texture of ice cream. It literally just melts in your mouth. So bananas kind of grow similar to bamboo. You start off with one trunk for the most part, and over time you get more and more shoots that spread out from it. So yeah, you can either leave these shoots there, or you can dig them up and move them to somewhere else, and make a whole food forest just like this with them. So yeah, the way they kind of grow, you'll have this one massive cane which grows to its maximum size. It'll put out a bundle of bananas, and then once those fruit are actually picked, that whole cane will actually die. But again, before it dies, it sends out several shoots down low, and then eventually those will take over, and those will grow a flower, and then those will die, and just so on and so on. Alright, so next up we have Longan. So yeah, this huge tree behind me is a massive Longan tree. They are extremely quick growing and they get very large, like oftentimes over 100 feet tall. Flavor of a Longan is sort of similar to like a lychee mixed with like a grape almost. It does have a very similar fruit as a lychee, so it's got this shell that you kind of peel off, and it's got this white fleshy pulp with a seed in the middle basically. So yeah, it's a really good tasting tropical fruit for the most part. Fun fact about them actually, the wild Longans are actually almost extinct at this point. They are pretty endangered now. People have been cutting them down for years and years for lumber essentially. I mean, they're massive 100-foot tall trees. It's a really good tree to grow for lumber, but obviously not good when they're threatened. All right, so next up we have dragon fruit. So if you didn't know, dragon fruit actually comes from a cactus. There are several varieties of it. There's red ones, there's white ones, there's yellow ones, pink ones, all sorts of different types out there. They do have to be hand pollinated though. You can usually do it with actually just a Q-tip. Basically just swabbing between the flowers is enough to actually pollinate them. One of their main pollinators out in nature where they're native from is actually a bat. That exact bat doesn't actually live here in Florida, so you do have to kind of make up and hand pollinate it. The taste is a bit odd. It's not a super sweet fruit, but it does have a lot of flavor. It tastes very similar to like a kiwi mixed with a pear, with just a little bit less sugar than what you normally find in it. You can eat it raw, you can put it in drinks, you can make smoothies out of it. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do with it. Although dragon fruit is typically a vine out in nature like this one here, they can actually be grown in pots at home. They don't necessarily have to climb up a huge tree. They can actually fruit in smaller containers as well. And over time, as they outgrow the containers, you can either repot them or actually just take cuttings. It's literally as simple as taking a chunk and sticking it halfway in the dirt, and it'll actually start to grow. So we can't have Tropical Fruit Month without mentioning a guava. This is what a lot of people will think of when they hear a tropical fruit. So guavas grow pretty well here in Florida. They can't do a lot of salt, so if you're right next to the ocean, it's probably not a great spot for them. But other than that, they do pretty well here. They may lose a few leaves in the wintertime, but they usually don't die from the cold here. If we do have like an extremely cold winter where we have a hard freeze or something like that, they may die. We haven't had one of those in over 10 years though, so it's a pretty safe bet to assume that this is going to be just fine here in Florida. There's tons of different types out there. There's white ones, there's pink ones, there's red ones, there's ones with seeds, ones without seeds, there's some that you just eat the flowers. There's tons of different types out there. I don't know exactly what kind this is. We still haven't figured it out. This was planted like years and years ago, and yeah, nobody remembers exactly what it was, but I know it's a tasty one. The guavas on it are fairly small. There are some out there with like big guavas, like the size of an apple. These ones maybe get the size of like a golf ball pretty much. It is very tasty. You can juice them, you can eat them raw. Yeah, just all around a really good tropical fruit. All right, the last fruit that I wanted to talk about this week is a strawberry tree, also known as the Jamaican cherry. So it's not actually a strawberry. I know the name is a little misleading. The reason they call it that is because the flower is pretty much identical to what a strawberry flower looks like. So white petals, got the actual fruit is superior, I believe, so it's going to be on top of the actual petals itself. Yeah, the fruit itself is actually really interesting. So these berries kind of start off green like that, and eventually they'll turn pink. I think the squirrel got to this tree before we did, but yeah, usually they're like a pinkish red when they're actually ripened. I think they taste pretty much like Fruity Pebbles. Some people say cotton candy, but to me it tastes just like Fruity Pebbles. Texture-wise, it's kind of like a blueberry with a slightly thicker skin. That's the best way I can describe the texture of them. But in general, it's a really good fruit. It's an extremely quick grower. They can grow at about 20-25 feet very quickly. They do have a really nice canopy to it. They're definitely wide trees. We're eventually going to try to grow this one up above everything else and then have the canopy. So we kind of have to just train it up until it gets to that point, essentially. But definitely a pretty wide tree. Yeah, wildlife actually absolutely loves this tree as well. I've got one of these in my house, and I just always see animals on it. I see birds on it. I see squirrels on it. There's rabbits that like to hide under the tree and get all the fruit that falls off throughout the day. If you're into wildlife, watching and just, you know, it's absolutely a great tree for that kind of stuff. And you can eat the fruit too. So it does have a really long season. So it's one of those trees where you can go out in the summertime and pretty much every day you walk past it, you can pretty much pick some fruit and have a little snack. So yeah, in general, really cool tree. Highly recommend planting one of these if you have the space for it. That's pretty much it for Tropical Fruit Month. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to come in and check us out. If you're interested in buying a tree, definitely talk to us, and yeah, we can definitely help you choose the right one that's going to do well in your area. Yeah, if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to reach out or leave a comment below.